was a hate crime in the parking lot of this bar in El Cajon. Caban followed Wilson outside, punched him once. When he fell, his head hit one of these concrete dividers. Timothy Caban was convicted of this and another hate crime, sentenced to 17 years in prison. Sylvester Wilson was sentenced to a lifetime of this: brain damage. He moves slowly and tentatively. There's little strength in his right hand. He's had numerous seizures, all because a white supremacist went after him because of his race.
I kind of believe what happened to me, and it wasn't good.
Sylvester lives with his brother and his wife, and it's difficult emotionally, physically, monetarily.
We're getting by. It's been super hard. Had a lot of trouble getting the medications he needed, but we just stayed after it because there was no other choice.
They received $500,000 settlement from the bar's insurance company. Now a huge award, $17,350,000 against Caban, who's in prison. Wilson may never see a cent, but his attorney says it was worth pursuing.
So if he ever does somehow inherit money, try to make a living, try to do something, Sylvester's going to be there to at least be a presence in his life, and he's going to follow him around for the rest of his life.
And he says it sends a message to Caban's friends about justice.
Violence committed against individuals because of their race, religion, national origin, gender identity, or sexual orientation remains a serious problem in America today. In the nearly 20 years since the 1990 enactment of the Hate Crime Statistics Act, the number of hate crimes reportedly has consistently ranged around 30,000 or more annually. That's one hate crime every 15 minutes of every single hour of every single day in every single year, year in and year out. These facts almost certainly understate the true number of hate crimes committed because victims may be fearful of authorities and thus may not report these crimes, or local authorities do not accurately report these violent incidents as hate crimes and thus fail to report them to the federal government. All Americans have a stake in reducing hate crimes. These crimes are intended to intimidate not only the individual victim, but all members of the victim's community and even members of other communities historically victimized by hate. By making these victims and communities fearful, angry, and suspicious of other groups, and of the authorities who are charged with protecting them, these incidents fragment and isolate our communities, tearing apart the interwoven fabric of American society. Eliminating prejudice requires that Americans develop respect for cultural differences and establish dialogue across racial, ethnic, cultural, and religious boundaries. Education, awareness, and acceptance of group differences are the cornerstones of a long-term solution to prejudice, discrimination, and bigotry. Hate crime laws and effective responses to hate violence by public officials and law enforcement authorities can play an essential role in deterring and preventing these crimes, creating a healthier and stronger society for all Americans. But most important of all, eliminating prejudices and teaching respect for all racial, ethnic, cultural, and religious individuals and groups begins with ourselves, individually and collectively. And today, the Insider Exclusive salutes a great American and a dedicated and tenacious lawyer, Dan Gillian, partner at Mitchell Gillian, in this exclusive special, Hate Crimes, Justice for Sylvester Wilson, explaining why and how he got justice for Sylvester. You will see how Dan was able to successfully win an amazing $17 million judgment for Sylvester. Dan has earned the highest respect from citizens and lawyers alike as one of the best trial lawyers in San Diego, in California, and in the nation. He has seen many innocent and hardworking people become victims of hate crimes. He understands that hate crimes are one of the most serious, enduring, and divisive human rights violations in the United States today. The problem is not just in San Diego, but nationwide, and its nature is institutionalized. And because of that, he is driven to fight for people who have been harmed by the willful or negligent actions of others. He learned a long time ago that if a man hasn't discovered something he will die for, he isn't fit to live. His goal is not only to get justice for his clients, but to make sure all victims of hate crimes get justice. Because injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere, and justice and power must be brought together so that whatever is just may be powerful, and whatever is powerful may be just. Hi, I'm Steve Murphy, and this is the Insider Exclusive, live from San Diego at the law firm of Mitchell Gillian. It is my great pleasure to introduce Dan Gillian to the show. Welcome to the show, Dan.
Well, thank you.
Tell us a little bit about your firm. What do you guys do primarily?
What we do is primarily trial work in the civil arena versus criminal. We can do just about any sort of trial as long as it involves a civil dispute. So we quite often do personal injury cases, employment cases, business litigation, that sort of thing, because those issues pop up the most.
And you generally represent the ordinary, average American.
Right, we represent the plaintiffs,
Yeah.
and we represent very few companies.
Yeah.
The ordinary guy out there is who we represent. And being a lawyer and having a license, I can do a lot of good. I can help people in lots of ways that they simply cannot do themselves.
Right, and you certainly did in this case that we're going to discuss of Sylvester Wilson. But before we get into the case, tell us who Sylvester Wilson is today.
Well, Sylvester Wilson is a small part of who he was before this incident. Right now, he's a severely brain damaged and severely physically disabled young black man that had a wonderful life before, a fun life, and now he is entirely dependent on his family and his doctors to get by every day.
What happened? What was the incident that put him in this situation?
Well, his mistake that day was the color of his skin, and he went into the wrong bar, and he got basically attacked by a white supremacist because he was black, and he was punched in the head. He didn't see it coming. The guy just sucker punched him, and he dropped and to the ground, and he was outside in the parking lot. He hit his head on the concrete, and the rest is history. He's been brain damaged ever since.
And the individual that hit him, what happened to him?
Well, it's interesting. There's a detective out in Santee. She's a white supremacist gang detective, and she just had a hunch that something was going on at that bar because she was overhearing conversations on the radio about skinheads being there, the bartender trying to minimize the significance of that. But she overheard it, and she just hightailed it over there. And as she pulled into the parking lot, and she was in plain clothes, and the car wasn't marked. So she saw a guy laying down on the ground, and she saw a car backing out. And she had a hunch that the car backing out was the perpetrator. The perpetrator, yeah. So she blocked the car. Well, she's unmarked. She's a woman. And so these guys thought that they were going to intimidate her and tell her to move. So they started dropping the F-bomb, telling her to get the F out of the way. At that point, she exits the car, pulls out her Glock, and puts them all under arrest, puts them down on the ground and takes them in and starts photographing their swastika tattoos.
Now, you got an amazing result. You got a $17 million verdict, didn't you?
Right.
We're showing that on the screen right now. But it was divided in two type of settlements, actually. A verdict as well as a settlement with a bar. And I want you to explain for our audience some of the issues that you were facing and who you went after as the defendants.
Well, the bar owner had an insurance policy, a relatively small insurance policy for a bar. And we went after the bar because that was where the money was.
Yeah.
And they have great defenses, bars do, because when people come into bars, they drink and they do stupid things. And so bars don't like to pay out money to people who get injured while drinking. And the insurance companies really hate putting money out on that. And this case was no different. But what we had in this case was stuff that a lot of times attorneys don't have. That really made it really uncomfortable for this insurance company. First of all, we were able to, through private investigation, obtain statements from people who basically recounted what happened that night and the warnings that this bartender had at the time.
And failed to do anything about it.
Well, she failed to do anything about it. She actually made it worse, kept feeding these guys Jaeger blasters, which were shots of Jägermeister and Red Bull. And they were over there, and she knew these guys were white supremacists. She had actually kicked them out in the past at that same bar for screaming out white pride,
Right.
white power, white pride. And in addition to that, there was another, her sister came in that night before the incident, and her sister is a bartender at another area bar there, and the sister said, yeah, these guys, I have had to kick them out of my bar too for saying they like to F up
Right.
black people.
So she was, the bar owner, the bartender, was well aware that she should have removed these people or had them change their attitude while they were there, right?
Well, I think she was scared, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
These are not good people.
Right.
They're bad people. And she was there by herself, you know, as far as working. She didn't have any security there. And she probably was just hoping that they would just leave. She should have called the police sooner. She shouldn't have been serving them. But, you know, I'm not going to question her decision on that on a personal level, on a personal safety level. She certainly could not have seen that these guys would do such a cruel thing. But, you know, the responsibility rests with her.
Right.
I think at a minimum she could have advised Mr. Wilson, said, hey, listen, Sylvester, I've got myself in a pickle here. Would you mind just leaving? And I'm sure he would have been like, hey, no problem, I'll get out of here right now.
Yeah.
But she didn't do any of that. And what she did was took a kind of a lesser action and called in for a police walkthrough, which is a very low priority thing for the police.
Right.
A bartender calls for a walkthrough. They're not calling the police and saying, we got a problem here, come over here real quick. They're actually saying the opposite. Would you please come over here and walk through if you have time? And she actually said there's a couple skinheads in the bar. Well,
And that area is known for having skinheads in there, right?
that bar is in Lakeside. You know, a mile away is a border with Santee, California, and Santee is commonly referred to here as Klan T because it's got a white supremacy problem in a big way.
What I want to do now is bring on Sylvester and his brother, Ron, because Ron is his full-time carekeeper right now,
Right.
isn't he? So let's do that right now. It is my great pleasure to introduce Sylvester and Ron Wilson to the show. Welcome to the show, guys. Can you bring us back, Sylvester, can you bring us back to that day and what you remember about that day?
I just remember got hit, and my brother came and got me. So I don't remember what happened to me. I don't remember.
Yeah. Did you come to the bar and get him?
No,
You went
no,
to the hospital.
Hospital.
He was at the hospital already. How long was he in the hospital?
For maybe 2 or 3 months. I don't know.
Really? And you used to be a machinist, is that correct?
Yes.
You have a certificate there. You can show us?
Yes.
Right. And you can no longer do this, correct?
Right now, no.
Yeah. Even though you'd like to, right?
Yes.
Okay. How has your life been impacted? Because you are his caretaker right now, right?
Yes,
you
I
take
am.
care of him. This is a 24-hour-a-day job?
Yes, it is.
It is. What is your day-to-day life like now?
Well, after he had this injury, and it was very devastating to see him in the hospital and the amount of suffering that he went through during his recoveries and everything. And I just decided I had to just focus on him and try to help him make it back to whatever health that we could recover.
Yeah, and that's very wonderful of you. This has been since July of 2007?
Yes.
Is that correct? So this has been 4 years.
Yes, it has.
4 years almost to the day. It's about a week after that, right?
Yeah.
And how has his recovery been over the last 4 years?
It's been very slow, and he's had a lot of seizures that caused him to be hospitalized.
Right.
And of course, when he had the seizures, it was always a setback in his speech and his ability to move. And only recently, within maybe 2010, late 2010, that they actually got the medicines properly adjusted to control the seizures.
Right, and you have to get that medicine every day, right?
Every day.
Every day.
Every day. What's your life like now? Do you like watch TV or?
Yeah, I try to walk myself, run,
Yeah.
and just walk every day because it hurts, but I still try to move because if I don't, it still hurts better, you know. So just try to move
Yeah. When you
Try
say
to
it hurts, where does it hurt?
in my leg.
If you don't walk. Walking is good.
Yeah,
Yes.
he does some exercises, and he does. We've done quite a bit of therapy
Yeah.
to help him recover some movement. His right side has the impairment. His right hand, right leg.
And he was hit under the chin, right? Correct?
Yeah, they said it was like an uppercut or something, but he
But
suffered.
the main problem is you fell and you
a
hit
severe head injury.
head injury. Yeah, you hit the curb on your head, right? You don't remember that night at all, huh?
Actually, I don't. I just remember that I know I got here from my head and then right here,
Yeah.
and then I just gone.
Right. The individual who caused this injury to you, his name was Cabal, correct?
Caban.
Caban.
Yeah, Timothy.
He was sentenced to, I think, 18 years in prison. He's in prison right now, right?
Yes.
What do you think about it? Is that justice for him?
You know, I thought about him for a very short time because this man was full of tattoos and full of hate,
Yeah.
and I really didn't want to spend a lot of time on him. So
Yeah.
really, like I said, I thought about him for a minute, but then after that, I just concentrated on my brother.
How has this changed you as a person, taking care of your brother full time?
I'm still left wondering how a person could do this kind of damage to another person just because they don't like the color of their skin or something like that. I just don't understand it. It appeared to me to be something wrong with him, with Mr. Caban and his thinking,
Right.
in order to accomplish such a dirty deed.
Yes.
So while he's in prison, you know, I understood that he had family, you know, like daughters or something like that, and he won't be there for them because of what he did. And of course, he's got plenty of time to think about it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure one day he'll make it out, but hopefully he'll be a better person.
So
That's what I hope.
you kind of pray for that?
I kind of pray for that.
Really? Are you religious?
Yeah, I believe in God, and yeah, I've got to pray.
That's one way to look at this whole incident, right?
Definitely.
What's your attitude towards him?
I believe that he shouldn't have never hit me, you know, and like, I hope somebody just comes to him and tell him, look, you should help somebody else. Help somebody else. Don't just help yourself like that. That's wrong.
Right.
You shouldn't help each other like that. That's wrong.
Yeah, now, fortunately, you guys met up with Dan Gillian, who
Yes.
took the case on.
Absolutely, fortunately.
Yeah, tell us what you think about this law firm and how they handled the case.
It was almost a miracle for us to have met Dan, and he's been an incredible help to us.
I want to thank you very, very much for being here today. You're an inspiration to a lot of people who will be watching this show, and best of luck to you for more improvement.
Thank you.
Dan, you can't have any better recommendation when a client says it was a miracle finding you, and that's what Ron said about, you handling this case. You did a remarkable job. One of the things that I think really strikes a chord in every lawyer's heart is when they have a case that makes a big difference. How do you think this case makes a big difference here, locally as well as nationally?
Well, people, they do things based upon motivations
Yes.
in life, and also the same goes with they won't do certain things if there's a penalty for that. These guys are able to get away with this stuff from a criminal standpoint. It's very easy to get away with a battery at a bar.
Yeah.
These guys probably, you know, if it hadn't been for this detective, could have gotten away with this thing. On the other hand, if it hadn't been all that serious, say he had just punched him and he had fallen and he broke his jaw, the guy wouldn't be doing 17 years. That's really, I think, when it's important for attorneys to step up and go after them, to make the stakes higher for them.
Yeah.
This guy will never own property again.
Mm-hmm.
If he inherits money, it's coming to Sylvester. His life is over financially. I do this all the time with a white supremacist, and I think those smaller cases, this was a kind of an easy one from the standpoint that, hey, I go after this money, get the real money for the client from the bar. This guy's sitting in prison. The facts are obvious. He's already pled guilty. But how about those cases where the DA doesn't even charge a hate crime? They just do assault and battery, and there's no insurance. I still do those cases. I still make it. I get the stakes. The stakes are high when you're going to face a judgment against you that's going to ruin the rest of your life and potentially ruin your family's life.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think that discourages this sort of thing.
Well, thank God you're there to do that, because not a whole lot of attorneys are, and I want to thank you very much for being on the program.
Well, thank you.
Thanks for joining us. You can get more information about our guest and the issues at insiderexclusive.com.